Step into the fintech realm where we uncover the evolving landscape of digital finance, spotlighting innovative payment solutions shaping the fintech industry. I'm Azaria Tagaya, and this is Money Matters. Hello there, welcome to your favorite channel, TV3, where you can also stream us on Tonton. You are watching Money Matters. I'm your host, Azaria Tagaya. And this week, we are taking a look at the rise of digital payments and also mobile banking and how this is actually shaping and transforming the traditional financial structures and also the way that we do business. And to help us navigate this topic today, we are joined by the Chief Executive Officer of Zenit Malaysia, Mr. Jason Siew. Hi.
Hi, thank you for having me here.
How are you today?
Very excited.
Well, we're excited to have you as well. Thank you so much for making time for us on Money Matters to tell us more about digital banking and also Zenit Malaysia. But before we go into that, let's take a look back. And as I mentioned just now, digital payments, we are seeing an increased rise in digital payments these days, not just in the country, but also worldwide. But what we want to focus on is how is this actually influencing the dynamics of financial services in emerging markets?
I think what you'll see is that with the growth of digital payments is that more and more businesses tend to adopt it and it makes life easier, right? And they're taking advantage of this quick movement and quick growth in terms of the user base, right? Because you need the users there to use the service, right? So I think nowadays you will see that even for small traders at your local market has started accepting digital payments.
Yeah. So for businesses that, as you mentioned, small traders at markets and people who are working towards integrating digital payment methods into their businesses. So for those who have successfully done that, what strategies have you observed in the industry? How are they successfully navigating this sort of integration?
I think what they do is that they don't just look at it as a payment. They incorporate it into their entire business. Just to give you an example, quick service restaurants, right? You'll see that they have a kiosk where you can go in and order on a kiosk and make payments as well. So not just looking at it solely as a payment, but incorporating it into the entire flow of their business.
I see. All right, so during the transition to digital payment methods, needless to say, there will be challenges. These are practically inevitable. But what we want to focus on is how do businesses in the evolving landscape, how do businesses generally address these challenges in terms of the transition towards digital payment methods?
So just now I spoke about incorporating it to your business. So I think a lot of times they may not know the full extent of the possibilities of digital payments, right? It's not just one payment and you're done. There could be numerous permutation and interpretations. So what happens is that then they need to look at their business, and then they need to probably engage fintechs or financial service providers to engage them in a conversation to understand from a digital payment perspective what is possible, at the same time to convey what their business is about to the I would say fintech providers and engage and see how is it best to integrate and offer this solution to their customers.
I see. So when we're talking about the challenges that you have to face, on the flip side, challenges also provide sort of an opportunity for businesses to grow and also move forward with the challenges that they face and how they overcome that. So how do you, in your perspective, how does the evolution of financial technology actually create opportunities for these businesses to grow and expand more in the future?
So just taking a simple example, say for example, you're a restaurant providing walk-in business and traditional method, right? Just collect payments. So now if you start to offer digital payments as an option, you can now offer pickup. People can order, make a payment digitally, then they can pick up. So you open up more avenues for your business, right? And I think if you're talking about the bigger industries or the bigger businesses, what happens is that digital payments allows automation. They allow you to scale your business further, right?
All right, so Jason, when we're talking about digital payments and mobile banking, there is a need to integrate the acceptance of digital payments as well as with the financial partners that are already in existence and financial institutions. But we're going to touch on that when we come back. Now it's time for us to go for a short break. When we come back, what are some of the opportunities that you can actually get from digital payments and how are businesses navigating this? That and more when we come back on Money Matters. Welcome back to Money Matters. You're still with me, Azaria Tagaya, and the Chief Executive Officer of Zenit Malaysia, Mr. Jason Siew, is with us this week to talk to us about digital banking and the rise of mobile banking and digital payments. All right, Jason, so before the break, we touched on the basics of digital payments in Malaysia and how companies and businesses are actually integrating this into their operations. So now we want to look at the regulatory framework. So considering the diverse regulatory environments, how can businesses actually journey the integration of digital payments while at the same time there's a need to maintain this positive relationship with the existing financial institutions?
That's a good question. So I think for Malaysia, we are pretty lucky because we do have a very good regulator. And I would say that the framework for a lot of possibilities in terms of fintech is there, right? So just to give you an example, we have a sandbox in Malaysia for digital insurance. There is the digital bank that is coming soon. Some are already here. So in terms of regulatory, it is there and in place. And how you make use of it is for businesses to make sure you engage with licensed fintech service providers. So there are different service providers for different segments, like for example, remittance, there is licenses. For payments, there is licenses. Then of course you have the banks, right? So depending on what you want to do, you would then engage these licensed partners to assist you through the journey. And ultimately, I think it's also important to point out that the bank will always be in the picture because ultimately the bank is the one safeguarding your funds. But these fintechs, what it serves to do is to innovate and incorporate the payment services into your business. But ultimately, the bank is there to safeguard and take care of your funds.
I see. Well, fantastic. Well, when we are talking about digital payments, we also have to look at this topic from a security perspective. So with that in place, if you could share with us, what are some of the measures that businesses have taken, perhaps some examples if you can share, and also what are the steps that they can take in terms of ensuring transactions are secure in alignment with established financial practices, and also to ensure this sort of robust operations moving forward?
I think to tackle this question, the problem is not that it is not secure. It's just that there's a lot of bad actors out there, right? So what is needed is for, first of all, the business to acknowledge that such risk exists, and then from there, they need to look at how to improve the customer experience. Like, how do you convey to your customers, right, we are legitimate, we are the rightful party you're doing business with, and not some bad actors trying to intercept, trying to pretend, trying to come in and, act like they are the business, right? So this is, I would say, step one, right? Step two is then also communicating with the financial service providers and the bank itself, because there are standards established for licensed parties in Malaysia, and they need to all reach this standard to provide the service, right? So I think in terms of security, in terms of the technology, it is available. What is needed is just more awareness, right? To make sure that you present a good user experience and you present information readily available to your consumers, to your customers, so that they don't get confused, they don't get, misled.
I see. All right, what about successful collaboration between digital payment solutions and also financial services? How do you envision this collaboration between these two parties contributing to improved accessibility and also this sort of financial inclusion that we are working towards and we should have in the emerging market?
I'm glad you asked this question. So I'm actually very happy to share one of our business partners. What they do is they do earned wage access. What it does is that, for example, if you work for 2 weeks, they give you access to your salary for 2 weeks, right? And how they do it is they work with the employer, they work with the financial, the bank, the financial institution, they work with fintech financial services to make it possible for you as an individual who have worked for 2 weeks to access your wage for that 2 weeks. So that this helps with the individual's cash flow, it helps with inclusiveness because it is offered to all employees of the organization. So there are positive impacts being made simply because such framework is available to make this a reality.
So how do you see the sort of landscape at the moment? Is this collaboration actually working, or do you have to do more to actually encourage that moving forward?
I think it's working. From what we've seen, it's helping people, right? So I'm very happy to see that. And all this is made possible because of all the players within the financial services industry working together to make it a reality, right? So, like I said, the bank is there to safeguard the funds. The fintech is there to enable the innovation and to deliver such a service. And then, of course, the people benefits from such a service. And this is not just this is just one example. Of course, there are other services and other such of innovations that is up and coming, and hopefully, get more people on board.
I see. All right. Well, trust is another issue that we want to look at. Trust, and of course, there's always going to be skepticism in the beginning, but building that trust and building that relationship with your consumers is crucial. But it's time for us to take another short break. We'll be talking about that when we come back here on Money Matters. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Money Matters. You're still with me, Azaria Tagaya, and we are speaking to Zenit Malaysia's Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Jason Siew. All right, Jason, so before the break, we actually asked you a little bit about this question. So trust is a big issue for consumers. It's extremely crucial in any case. So how can businesses navigate the challenge of, first of all, there's a need to build trust with the consumers, but there's also this need to encourage acceptance or more acceptance?
So I think you're correct. Trust is very important because we're dealing with money, right? And to convince someone to sort of load their money in a digital format where they don't see the funds or can't touch the funds is something I would say a transition, right, for them to basically have the confidence to try. So I think for a lot of businesses and also for such payment system operators for the financial industry, what they do is to try and encourage. They have made it easy, first of all, to enable such payment methods. They have also put in promotions. They made some promo, free purchases. They put in free gifts to encourage you to try, right? And I think this is more of a social thing where once you see your friends trying, your friends tell you about it, they tell you, hey, I got a free drink, and it sort of makes you curious about it, and then you slowly get more exposure, you see more acceptance, and then slowly over time, it will get you asking questions, right? And I think the biggest turnaround point is that when you see the closest people to you using it, and they tell you, why are you still using cash, right? So that's, I would say, the pivot point where the individual will then seriously look at it. But of course, at the same time, the businesses will then need to encourage and also make it easy to use such payment methods.
I see.
Right.
All right. So when we are talking about acceptance and trust, what we're actually seeing is a lot of people are adopting these payment methods, and there's this positive rise in the acceptance. But we're hearing a lot about skepticism and people having these sort of trust issues. What is the situation actually like in Malaysia in terms of the businesses that are adopting these payment methods and also the consumers in Malaysia and their overall perspective and attitude towards digital banking?
So let me break down your question a bit. From a business perspective, I think confidence is already there by now. We're in 2024.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, yes, they were skeptical, but now I think they use it as a business as usual, a daily business. And when you see big brands, international brands adopting digital payments as part of their business ecosystem, then I think the smaller mom and pop shops, the smaller, shops in other states, rural areas, they will see it and they will try it, right? Because big brands are using it, you can't go wrong. And then from a consumer perspective is that simply convenience, right? You are offered the opportunity to choose if you want to pay using digital payment methods or you want to use cash. The business still accepts cash, right?
All right. For Xendit Malaysia itself, what are some of the advantages and also synergies that Xendit Malaysia gains from operating in Malaysia? Especially when we're talking in terms of regulatory considerations, talent acquisition, and also just the overall business operations of Xendit.
Sure. I think very proud as a Malaysian to say that actually our regulator is very mature, right? Just to give you an example, it's only in recent past 5 years that e-money, e-wallet is something that we perceive to be normal. But did you know actually our regulator had a framework for e-money as early as 2002. Back then, of course, it wasn't called e-money. It was called micropayment system, right? But imagine 20 years ago, right? Our regulator already had such a framework in place to encourage this kind of innovation, right? And as always, regulator is key, right, to ensure safety and standards, right? So I think in terms of Malaysia, it makes a lot of sense, right? It allows us to innovate. It gives us an opportunity to come up with new stuff, right? Then I think in terms of talent, I think Malaysia do have a lot of talents, right? And we have the advantage of language as well. And for Southeast Asia, for example, right, we are quite central in terms of location and using it as a hub, right, to travel from here, to conduct business from here. It's really easy, right? The infrastructures are in place. And coming to business, I think for Malaysia, we do have a lot of bright young minds working on a lot of really innovative and new things, right? That we feel for financial providers, right, they may not understand it yet, what startups are trying to do, what these young people are trying to innovate. They don't quite understand it, but of course, as a financial institution, they have a duty to provide the service, and that's where Xendit has an opportunity to bridge that gap, to understand from the business, what are you trying to do? And then from there, we can advise them what is the financial institutions or what are the regulator concerned about looking at, and what do you need to do to make sure that in the eyes of the regulator, in the eyes of financial institutions, that you are safe, secure, and that it is robust, right? So that's where we come in, and I'm very happy to say that I do see a lot of startups, a lot of young people coming with really fantastic ideas, and being able to help them on their journey and to bridge that gap with the financial institution is really, I would say, fun and also exciting.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds exciting as well. Now, Jason, before we let you go, we need to ask you about how can businesses actually go about adopting these cutting-edge technologies, payment solutions, while also maintaining positive relationships with their financial partners in the emerging markets?
So, like I mentioned earlier, financial partners are always in the picture, right? The institutions, the service providers, and ultimately it's being able to communicate and to articulate what is it exactly are you trying to do. Because at the end of the day, we are talking about digital payments, we are talking about money, right? So it's a very serious topic, but at the same time, these businesses are trying to make it fun, trying to make it engaging, but at the same time, we need to be safe while doing it, right? So that's where parties such as ourselves come into the picture to understand what you're trying to do. We try to bridge it and also try to advise you, because think of it this way. You may not be a subject matter expert in payments, but you are great at selling food, right? Burgers, for example, you're great at it. But you're thinking that, hey, can I make it automated? Can I make it with artificial intelligence and etc.? Then how do you piece all these pieces together? Like, how can I allow artificial intelligence chat person to talk to a real customer, to go through the ordering process and then complete the payment and do the whole journey via digital methods, fully automated, right? So from the perspective of financial partners, they may say that this is a bit risky, like you're getting AI to determine the pricing to charge and all these things. It's perceived as risky, right? Because they don't understand what exactly you're doing in terms of business. So that's where parties like us come into the picture to understand, to bridge the gap. And I think it's also to make sure that always we make sure that the trust and security is in place to take care of the customers and to ensure the trust continues, right? Safe for everybody.
All right, fantastic. Well, it's wonderful. It's interesting that you mentioned about artificial intelligence at the tail end of our discussion. I think that would open a whole different topic and a whole different episode for us to talk about that. But it has been amazing speaking to you this week, but that's all the time we have for Money Matters. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, that was Jason Siew, the Chief Executive Officer of Zenit Malaysia. Thank you once again to our guest this week, and thank you as well for joining us for the past half hour. You've been with us on Money Matters, and if you missed any part of today's episode, you can always catch it up on Tonton. And be sure to join us again next week, same time, right here on TV3. I'm Azaria Tagaya. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time.